All right, well, this is Archie, and Archie's being a wiggle butt right now. This should keep him in place. This is Archie's roadmap to success. Sit. That's a stand. We sit. So remember, if you repeat a command word over and over again, you're just watering down your authority. What I'm trying to do is manipulate him into an SIT. Mm-hmm. So remember, the more you say it, the less you mean it. As soon as he sits, I put it in his mouth and say the word sit. Mm-hmm. So remember, anytime you give a treat for this or anything else, give him the treat first and then say the command word immediately after. Okay, so the Guardian here does a really good job of exercising him. There was a little bit of a notice, I noticed a little bit of, he got a hitch in one of his back legs. So remember to videotape that while you're throwing a treat up and down the stairs and take it to your vet, show your vet. It's probably nothing to worry about, but I'd like your vet to be aware of it so that if he has any concerns about, maybe he might not want you running up and down the stairs, but throwing the treats up and down the stairs is a nice way to exercise the dog. You can do that very quickly, and before, if you have a guest that's just gonna, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Well, Archie's crazy. I don't have time to take him for a walk. Well, you can take him to the stairs for 5 minutes real quick. Okay, so we also talked about rules. A lot of dogs with separation anxiety have very few rules. And a lot of times we think of rules as being a mean, and the person who enforces, or the rules as a negative, and the person who enforces the rule is being mean. But for dogs, if they don't have any rules, they can quickly get the impression that they are in charge of the world. Crash is the word I like to use. And that's passive training. We'll talk about that in a minute. So if we don't have any rules, then he thinks he's in charge of us. But then when we try to leave and he barks at us and says, don't go out there, it's dangerous, or take me with you, and I leave without him, he like freaks out because humans are not listening to me. And so that's why we're going to talk about petting with a purpose and passive training in a minute. So basically, if a dog has very few or no rules, it sees you as a peer. And if it sees you as a peer, then listening to you is optional, and it confuses the dog often to think that its job is to protect you or be protective of your house or possessive or things along those lines. So by enforcing rules for dogs, burning energy is like a form of currency. So if we're getting up and consistently burning energy to make sure he doesn't come on the carpet when we're eating food, or stays out of the kitchen when we're preparing food, or not allowed on the couch, or whatever it is, every time we do that, the dog sees us acting like a leader. And it's not mean, it just helps the dog say, yes, she's serious about it. Every time I try to do this, she says no. After I do enough repetitions, I'm like, okay, I'm never gonna try to do that again, because every time I try, she says no consistently. If we don't have any rules, we're inconsistent, and that is frustrating and confusing for dogs. So some of the rules we talked about: not being allowed on the furniture. I recommend getting X mats, so the letter X, M-A-T-S, and putting one on each cushion. You can get them on Amazon or Chewy for about 11 to 13 bucks a piece. It'll be a cost, but then you don't have to police it. So you put it here, and then if I want to come and sit here, I come here, I fold it up, and I put it underneath the couch, and I sit down. Then when I get up to go use the bathroom, I grab it, and I fold it, and I put it here, and he runs up, he's like, oh darn, David put a placeholder there. So it takes 66 days to form a behavior pattern. So I usually tell people 3 months, these rules should be in place with 0 deviations for that 3 months. And then at the end of that 3 months, don't think of breaking rules as a way of rewarding him. You can do that if his behavior is getting improved. I usually say 3 months, or as long as the problem's still going on. So until you can leave him home without any barking or any problems with the separation anxiety, I would not go back to letting him on the couch. When you do let him on the couch, it should be a one-time exception and for good behavior. So I invite you up the couch, and then you start barking, you lose the privilege. Or I invite you on the couch, and you get down to go get a drink of water. When we come back, you need another invitation to get back up. It's my couch. I'm just being generous and sharing it with you. After a while, the dog kind of starts to see that humans are up here, I'm down here, and I see a literal distinction. Now, if you want to cuddle with him, you can cuddle with him as much as you want. You can always go to his level. So you might maybe move the table off the side and get a bunch of pillows, make a pillow fort, lay down on the floor like you're in a drive-in movie theater, and you can cuddle with him to your heart's content. But when you're done, you come up here, he can't come up here. So he sees a distinction. That's important for dogs with separation anxiety, because they need to have confidence in you as a leader, knowing that you're either safe without them when you go out there, or that you are the leader and you create a safe environment when you left. They don't have to worry about the boogeyman coming. Okay, I'm not going to talk about separation anxiety because it's in the video above this one on the webpage. But other rules should be not be allowed within 7 feet of a human who's eating, even if he's not actively begging. I would recommend taking a piece of taping and running it from the corner of your work island there to your sliding door. And then when you're in the dining room, he's not allowed to cross that line while you're eating. When you're in the kitchen, you have kind of a square area in your kitchen. He shouldn't be allowed to cross from the fridge to that counter. That whole area is off limits when you're cooking. And remember to help him practice by setting up scenarios where he can practice the behavior you want. So go in the kitchen. As soon as you cross the line, turn and face him, and do the same thing that I showed you over here on the floor. You're not dropping treats on the floor, but you stop at the edge and you take a step backwards, left foot, right foot, and pause. If he starts coming forward, you hiss and rush towards him at the same time. And you stop the line. You don't ever go past the line. And if you, let's say you were 5 steps into the kitchen and he started coming in and he took 1 step across the line, you start running towards him, you take 2 steps and he gets across the line, you stop there. You don't always have to go to the line unless he's still challenging. You still cross it, then I go straight to the line. So eventually you'll go back and forth and back and forth. Remember, your authority goes whatever direction your hips are pointing. So when you cross the line, don't turn and face this way. If the area you're going to defend is there, walk backwards into the kitchen. So once you can get all the way in the kitchen and he stays there, then grab a piece of bacon, microwave it, and watch him out of the corner of your eye so he doesn't see you're watching him, but you're watching him intently. As soon as he walks across that threshold, you stop what you're doing and rush towards him. And he's going to test multiple times, and that's not defiant. That's him being diligent and doing his research. So eventually, you get the microwave dings, and you pull that bacon out. Ooh, it sure smells like she's cooking. She's in the place she normally cooks. He's going to try to come in. And again, you put the bacon down, march towards him, and stop and force him in the line. Wait for him to sit or stop moving before you take your step backwards each time. Eventually, he's going to sit or lie down outside the line. And we're not telling him to sit. We're not telling him to lie down. We're waiting for him to do it on his own. When he does it, when he lays down, instead of rewarding him, then we put the bacon off to the side. We do our actual cooking. Now, when you have the bacon out, you're also going to do your pre-cooking while he's still across the line. You pull out the pots and pans. You fill the pan up with water for your rice. You pull stuff out of the fridge. You're grabbing plates and shredders and all the rest of the stuff. It looks like you're cooking. It smells like you're cooking, but you're watching him out of the corner of your eye the whole time. When he actually sits or lies down, that's when you can start your actual cooking. He just did a warm-up or a practice session of not going in there, and he's accustomed to doing that. Then you can actually do your cooking, and he doesn't see any difference between the two. So anytime your dog fails, remember remember what we talked about off camera. If my client tells me my dog is being so naughty, I ask them, have you taught the dog how it's supposed to behave in that activity? So I want you to think of yourself, if he behaves in a way that you don't want, have I specifically taught him how to behave in that scenario? If I didn't, what that is?
Helicopter?
It's like a helicopter or something.
Yeah.
So if I didn't, what I want to do is I want to break the activity down into the easiest version possible first, and then practice the first step over and over and over again until he's behaving the way that I want. Only then to go to the second step. Remember the analogy I told you is going to the door. First you move him away from the door, then you walk towards the door, then you reach for the deadbolt, and then you flip the deadbolt several times, then you go to the handle and you unlock the handle, then you jiggle the handle, then you open the door an inch, and then you close it an inch, open it 2 inches and close it. And you're not going to the next step for any of these steps until you can completely do all the versions of it and he stays put. Now we're teaching him, this is what I expect from you during this step of this activity. Once we've gone through all the individual steps by themselves, really one after the other, then we do them all together in the easiest version possible. Then we gradually start making it more real world until we get back to the real world situation. He behaves how we want because we've taught him how to behave. Okay, so other rules. Another important one. He's kind of free fed right now. So dogs, eating is the most important activity for them. So what I would recommend you do is go to a structured feeding. So you put the food down in his bowl, block it the way I showed you there, don't let him eat it, and he won't even want to eat it the first day or two. He's like, whatever, I'll eat it later. Not anymore, buddy. So you eat something, a chip, cracker, a piece of celery, something 5 or more bites. If you're going to eat a real meal, that's great, and then put his food down after you finish. So if you're doing the 5 bites, you take your 5th bite, go over there and tap his bowl and say his name. He's going to come over and look at the bowl and be like, yeah, I see there's food there. I eat when I feel like eating, and walks away. As soon as he walks more than 3 to 5 paces away, pick up the bowl, dump it back in the bag, and put the empty bowl back down. 99.9% of the time, the dog will go lick the, ooh, what's up? Well, when you walk away, the kitchen is closed. Because that's how it is for them in the wild. If he eats a little bit, as soon as he walks away, pick up and dump whatever's remaining. He doesn't need to get until the next meal. Now, a lot of dogs will go 2 or 3 days. If he goes longer than 3 days, then call me. But usually dogs go about 1.5 to 2 days of not eating, because they're not used to it. But if I have access to food all the time, it's not very precious for me. It doesn't mean a lot for me. And for dogs in the wild, it is everything. It's 90% of the time in the wild is looking for food. So if you have dominion over food, it takes you very little time, but every time you feed him, he respects you a little bit more as an authority figure. Come up with a command word to eat. sushi, or whatever the word is you want to say. Every time for 4 months he takes his first bite of food, you say the word sushi. After a while you say sushi, and that means I get to eat. So you put him in a sit, put the food down, then you eat and prepare your stuff, and then you're washing dishes and doing stuff, and whenever you're ready, you're like, sushi, and he runs and eats your food. There's nothing but air between him and the food. Those sort of activities are super important with dogs with separation anxiety because they have no practice with impulse control. That's a wonderful way to practice that independent of you actually leaving. You're creating a different scenario to help him develop his impulse control muscles, for lack of a better word. Okay, so those are examples of rules. Also, don't let him run out the door ahead of you. He doesn't walk ahead of you on walks. This is great. The last one I have is for your bedroom door. So he sleeps in the room with you guys. If you want to let him on the bed, that's fine, but only independent of the furniture, but only with an invitation from you on the bed. If he gets up without permission, and he gets removed from the bed, and then and then you get your jammies on, then you get up and you get in bed, and then he comes after you. In the morning, now he's not used to this. I make a dog sit before I open a door. But when you're in an apartment, you don't have a yard to let him out to. But you do have your bedroom door closed at night. So when you get up, he's going to want to be with you, like you mentioned, but he probably isn't going to want to leave. And the idea is you're going to increase the length of time each time he doesn't comply the first time. So so instead of going right away, go to the bathroom, get up, go to the door, tell him to sit one time. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, then you go to the bathroom. You're planning on him not sitting. And then you go to the bathroom, do your business. When you come back, it's been 1 minute, you tell him, sit again. And he, 1, 2, 3. If he doesn't sit by 3, then I walk away and sit down for 2 minutes. Next time I walk away and sit down for 4 minutes, or lay in bed. But as soon as you say sit, and he sits, fly the door open. After a while, he'll recognize, if I want to go through that door, I just go sit in front of it, my human will open the door for me. That's, like I said, sitting is almost akin to saying please or thank you. After a while, he'll go sit at the door as he's saying, please, can I go through the door? And make sure you open that door as soon as you can when he does that. And think of that as an equation, like for fetch, when he brings you the ball, tell him to drop it first. Once he drops it, then tell him to sit. Only after he drops it and then sits do I pick up the ball. And I say fetch 3 times. When I throw it, I say fetch. When he picks it up with his mouth, I say fetch. Then when I put the treat in his mouth or reward him, I say fetch. That kind of puts it in context. So, and fetch is a great way to exercise it. So those are examples of some rules, but there are probably other rules that you can incorporate as well. We also talked about petting with the purposes and passive training. If he comes up and paws at you or nudges or barks at you, he's telling you what to do. Leaders tell, followers ask. The next time he tells you what to do, instead of doing what he wants and validating him that he thinks he's in charge, give him a counter order. Remember, petting him or giving attention is the same thing as paying him. Right now, you're paying him for doing no job whatsoever. You would never let somebody come in your place and not paint and then pay them because they were there $8 talking to you. You didn't work. You don't get paid. You want to pay? You can talk and work at the same time, then I'll pay you. So right now he gets paid for doing what he wants, so he has no motivation to listen to you. So when he comes up to you, nudges you, tell him to sit. When he sits, if he sits, you pet him under his chin, say the word sit, and only the word sit. Not good sit, not sit, just sit. And then you pet as much or as little as you want, at least one pet. If he doesn't sit, play hard to get. Lean back, pull out your phone, check an email, watch a little TV, make out with your hubby, whatever you want to do. 1 minute later, or approximately 1 minute later, if he protests or whines, keep making out the whole time he's protesting. When he stops, if you want to give him another opportunity, sit. If he doesn't sit, then show him that you're living your best life, you got other things to do. After a while, he'll start longing for the attention he's not getting. And as soon as you tell him to sit and he sits, pet him under his chin, say the word sit, and then pet him as much or as little as you want. What he'll realize, if I can't, from now on, when I tell the humans what to do, nothing happens. But if the humans tell me what to do and I do it, I get petted, I get a reward. So I can't tell them anymore, I have to ask them, and better than ask them, I have to actually pay for them through a currency of obedience. You're getting a little crooked, I might have you watch through the camera instead. There you go. Otherwise you'll be watching the crooked. So basically what he'll start doing is sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. Make sure you do pet him for that, because that's a very polite way to ask for attention. Now, I use the watchword paycheck. If someone's petting without a purpose, I'm saying paycheck, I think you may have forgotten to pet with a purpose. That person should immediately stop petting, even if they did it right. Tell the dog to sit. When he sits, pet him on his chin and then say, babe, I asked him to sit. You just missed it. If you get in a habit of pet, even if you want to pet him, he should still have to do something to earn it. If you get in a habit of petting with a purpose, it'll take you about 2 to 3 months to get in this habit. But if you do, every time you pet your dog, it becomes a micro dog training session that boosts his confidence because he's earning his pets. It increases his respect for you as an authority figure. He's no longer telling you, he's asking, and it practices having him sit. We have difficulty sometimes getting him to sit because I don't feel like sitting. You're going to pet me anyway, so why should I do what you want? Not anymore. So the other thing that we talked about was passive training, which is just waiting for him to organically offer you the behavior that you want. Every time he comes to you, when you didn't ask him to, pet him and say, come. Every time he sits in front of you, pet him and say, sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say, crash or chill or whatever your word is. Takes his first bite of food, you say, sushi. Takes his drinks of water, call it vodka. Don't ever give your dog vodka. Every time he brings you toys, name all your individual toys. Right here. Off. I didn't tell him to get off, but he got off, and I want to label that as a command word. So as soon as he did it, within that 3-second window, I petted him and said the word off. I put it in context. The more you do that, the easier it is to communicate with your dog. Also come up with, so I say recognize or reward if somebody's missing an opportunity. So if Val is sitting here and he's not paying attention watching TV, and you see the dog came and sat up next to him, you say, Val, reward. And Val looks at the dog and just pets him, says whatever the dog is doing at the time. If he asks you, it's too late. So if the dog's standing there, you pet him, just assume he came and pet him and say, come. If he's sitting, pretty obvious, pet him and say, sit. If he's laying down, pet him and say, crash. Always try to pet him under the chin. You can pet him anywhere you want, just never pet him on top of the head. That creates a down nose orientation. We want the dog to feel good about it. So if all things are equal, try to always pet him under the chin. Let me see. We also went over the escalating consequences. I'm going to give you a very abridged version of them here. I normally don't go through these on video because I want people to have to hire me for this sort of secret. But I'm going to bury this one in this 10-minute video. So basically, the first thing we do is a hiss one time per incident. I have 10 hisses. Level 1 hiss, like to level 10, where I'm like, and so you want to hiss at him with matching his intensity level. So if he's at level 5 energy and you hiss at him at 3, he won't hear it or he won't respect it. If he's at 5, you hiss at 5 or 6. So you always meet or exceed his energy level, and preferably before he breaks the rule. So he's not allowed to be on the carpet. When he's approaching the carpet but a foot away, that's when you would hiss at him. That's the first consequence. Hiss one time per incident. I go hiss, 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 because that'll just water it down too. Second thing I do is I abruptly stand up and turn to face the dog. Remember, your authority goes whatever direction your belly button is pointing. So you stand up, the dog's going to take a step backwards, and he's going to move around the room to see if you're talking to him. So wherever he goes, you pivot, keep him in front of you without moving your feet if possible. And as soon as he stops moving, stands, sits, or lies down, take 2 steps and only 2 steps. Most people take 3. They take step, and they shuffle. Don't shuffle. They communicate through, dogs communicate, they do a big movement followed by no movement. A third step would be communicated as just meandering. So as soon as he stops moving, you take those 2 steps backwards to tell him, because you stopped moving and challenged me, I moved my defenses backwards away from you. So it's a conversation. Then I wait for 1 second, which puts a period at the end of the sentence. Then I go back to what I'm doing. However, if what you were doing is what I'm doing now, when you sit down, you lose some perceived authority. So when you sit down, don't sit deeply on the couch, sit on the edge of the couch, and you should have to expect to bounce up and practice that one again. The third consequence is to march deliberately at the dog, not stomping your feet up and down, moving briskly. You need to think, give him a flinching experience. He's like, if I'm still here when she gets here, she's going to run me over. So he defers and gets out of your way. Keep marching at him until he turns away from you, sideways or greater, so his back is facing you. As soon as he's sideways or greater, we stop in place. And you have to stop with precision. Boom! And then we go to the second consequence. Now he's moving around the room. I pivot. He stops moving. I take those 2 steps backwards just like I described. The only time it doesn't apply is if he's already crossed the boundary. Let's say that the line is here, and he crossed the line, and I'm marching at him, and he turns sideways here. He's still not supposed to be on this side of the line. I would keep marching and crash into him until he gets across this line. And I would stop enforcing it at the line. Never go past the line. And once I do that, if I want to take a step backwards, I'm going to do it backwards with my front facing him, because my authority goes whatever direction my chest is pointing. I'm going to take left foot, right foot, pause. If he comes forward, I rush towards him. If I take 2 steps backwards and he stays put, then I take 2 more steps backwards. And before you start moving away from him, wait for him to stop moving around. If he's moving around and you back up, he's going to take that as an invitation and come in. So he's moving around, you're here, waiting, and as soon as he stops moving, then you take your steps. And if he stays put, then you take 2 more steps. And he can move around after that, he just can't cross the threshold. So that's the third consequence. March deliberately at him so he thinks he's going to get run over until he turns sideways, then pause and go to the second consequence. The fourth consequence is to step on the leash. Step on the leash, in his case, about 2.5 feet away from where it attaches to his collar. If he throws a temper tantrum, don't say any words. What we're saying is when you are not listening, you lose all freedom. Once freedom is restored, once you are calm and balanced, freedom is restored, I take my foot off the leash. So when you step on it, he's going to protest for a minute. When he sits down, he'll sit as far away as the leash is allowed. Take your foot and the leash and slide it towards him to take the tension off. And then wait, but don't tell him to sit. Wait for him to lie down, and don't tell him to lie down either. When he sits on his own, he's saying, I'm challenging you less. When he lays down, he's saying, I'm surrender. When he lays down completely, take your foot off of the leash, but leave it attached to his deal. Now, it's dangerous for a dog to drag her leash around unsupervised. So only under supervision. We don't want to get caught on something and hang himself. If a couple minutes go by and he stays calm, then we can go to take the leash off. It's not a quid pro quo. But if I leave the leash on and he starts barking or lunges at my guest as he runs by, I can step on the leash and reapply the consequence pretty easy. So hiss, stand, march, leash. And after a while, it'll be hiss, stand, march. You won't have to do the leash. After a while, it'll be hiss, stand, no march. And after a while, it'll be just the hiss. And you can combine them. If, let's say, I drive surgery and drop some drugs on the floor and you start coming towards him, I might hiss, stand up, and march at him all at once. That makes it more powerful. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we covered. I think that's just about it. And since it's getting so dark...
What about leaving him alone?
That is going to be in that... Oh, okay. Well, I didn't talk about that in separation anxiety video. In the short term, you want to leave him alone while you're practicing the stay as limited as possible. Every time you leave him alone, he's practicing doing what that dog's doing and barking or panicking. So either find somebody that can come and stay with you, or you might want to check out like the healthy spot on Wilshire.
I already did.
They let you watch. You can drop your dog off for a little while. Now that he's having fun, he gets socialization. You say he loves playing with other dogs, and he doesn't practice being in here barking. You might also check. I got a couple dog daycares. There's Wags down on Main. There's a couple other places, or the Wags, the app, or Rover. You can get somebody to come to your house and stay here. And
they can even stay with him.
Yeah. Ooh. And so Rover and Wags are both apps where you can hire people. Just make sure you find people that you like their references and all the rest of that stuff. Check for some references, because there are some people who are not very good. And I wouldn't tell them you have security cameras. And I've got people that do this and have a bad experience. So and what I tell people is, first time to do it, hire them and just sit in your car and watch them the whole time. Are they going through your stuff?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Well, if they do, then you get them. You watch them do it. You know what they took, and then you never hire that person again. Most people are not like that, but unfortunately, there are people who will take advantage. We want to make sure that the person's not just ignoring your dog. Is there people who do it are great with dogs? They can actually do a little training and some other stuff. That's the person you're looking for. And just put an ad on, put something out on your Facebook page or your Instagram. Maybe you might find a client that has a kid that's in high school that might be looking for a little extra money. You can pay them a lot less probably than somebody else, and they get to know your dog, and it's fun for your dog. It's fun for them. So you want to limit having him home alone as much as possible. Now, how long it takes him to stay and desensitize him, the stuff I talked in the video above, is all up to you. It's how often you practice. I would recommend you practice a minimum of 3 times a day. But I would probably, for you, what you're trying to do, I've had some clients who are practicing 15 or 20 times a day, because it's only like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, a minute. You can do that 20 times a day in 20 minutes, and then you're going to accelerate your process. All right, now if you have questions or problems on the stuff we went over or anything else, please text me. If I don't hear from you, I assume that everything's going great. In our society, in our culture, people complain when they're not happy. I love it when people call me and send me a text. Hey, just want to send you this video. My dog is home alone. It doesn't bark and has no more separation. I love that. I'd love to have that, but it's more like, he keeps on getting up and walking away when I'm doing this, or what, remember, he has to have a 100% success rate for the stay. So those are the things we can talk about via text message, things like that. Hey, buddy. Now, he is, I will say, come here. He is on Prozac, as you can see on the side back there.
Yes, that's what my daughter did.
And the Guardian's vet put him on Prozac. Now, it may be entirely appropriate for him to be on Prozac. I really have not found very many dogs that actually need it. Most of the time, it's just the rules and structure and all the things we've talked about in this video. Once you change and create a healthy leader-follower dynamic, the dogs don't need that. If you do want to take him off Prozac, and the Guardian's mentioned that it has been beneficial, he could be one of those cases where it does help him. But when you do take him off the Prozac, you don't take him off right away. You have to have your vet wean him off little by little. And the goal for me is to get them off those drugs as soon as we possibly can. All right, buddy, I think we probably should end this one, because I'm looking at it and I'm seeing more light on the Guardian's face from the reflection of the light from my camera than right in the room. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Before you do, so this is Archie, and this is Archie's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.